This thing on? This still work? Hey,
Blowing off the dust.
Yeah, dust off the mics, dust off the headphones. It's been a while. We're back. I'm Craig. That is Logan. No one asked us. This is no longer the Best Damn Illini postgame show. We don't have a name for this. This is not a regular show. This is still an Illini basketball show. We don't really know how to brand this, but has it been a month? It's been almost a month since we were on here. Since Illinois lost to UConn, we haven't done anything. Things have happened in both of our lives that have been more important than doing this podcast. But we're back. A lot has happened, so we figured it was time to come on and talk about what has happened so far. And it's not all. There's going to be so much more that's going to happen in the next month. So at some point, we'll be back and do another recap. But this is our first offseason update of the 2024 offseason. New assistant, new players, old players leaving, old coaches leaving. A lot of Illini basketball stuff has happened. A lot of Illini football stuff has happened, but let's just be honest, no one cares about that. So we probably won't touch on any of that. This is going to be an Illini basketball recap. Thanks for tuning in. As always, like and subscribe. We did pass 600 subscribers. Logan, we're at 614 subscribers, which I believe we started the season with less than 500. So we gained at least 115 subscribers this season. So thank you all so much. Keep subscribe if you haven't. Keep liking the videos, share the videos, follow us on socials to get all the updates and all that good stuff. But we appreciate all of the viewers. And I meant to tweet this out. Sorry, I'm on a filibuster here, but I did mean to tweet this out. Our NCAA tournament postgame shows were just incredible. All four of them had more than 1,000 views. 1,000 for Morehead State, 1.8 thousand for Duquesne, 4.7 thousand for Iowa State, and 3.7 thousand for UConn. So, I was thinking about this when we were making dinner, getting ready for this show. When we started this, we had a rundown. We had, scripts and all that stuff. This has turned into, a zero preparation show. And I freaking love it, man.
Yeah.
This is great. And for people to actually watch, it's just really cool. So thank you so much to everyone that watches and tunes in.
Yeah, it was, a lot of credit to, let's just give the credit where it's due. The team on the court is what carries this.
Yeah.
If Illinois basketball sucks, nobody watches this show. So First and foremost, we personally, have to thank them for having the success that we did. But yeah, just, the shows just continued to climb, and, we talked about it. I would text you, every few hours that the number just kept climbing. But yeah, those, three of those, Iowa State, UConn, and Duquesne are three of the most watched shows we've ever had.
That's
so
awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. And it's a lot of fun. I've enjoyed doing this. I don't have, I thought about it too, similar to what you were saying. I didn't really think about what we were going to talk about in this show, but I know everything. I know everything. I've had all sorts of thoughts and takes and things building up. So I don't even need a rundown for what we're going to talk about. But I just enjoy doing this. So yeah, 614 subscribers at this point. As you talked about, some of those videos getting upwards of over 3,000 and 4,000 videos or views. That's pretty fantastic. I know a lot of the UConn fans found the video. Some of the Iowa State fans found the video. I know when you pissed off Purdue fans, they had found the video. So that stuff kind of helps.
I found that out, that the Purdue post game on YouTube, it did get 1.2 thousand views on YouTube, but a lot of the live concurrent viewers where we saw like $650 or not dollars, 650 viewers live, that was on Twitter.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But yes, I get the point that you are making.
Yeah, but we're here.
We're here. We are here. We're going to continue doing this as with every year. Just as we start to get the momentum, is when we kind of take a break. So we don't know when you're going to see us. We're not going to do a weekly show for a while, probably. Just depends on what happens in the off season. So this is live. We got a decent number of people in here. If you have any thoughts, get in the chat. We're kind of going to do our thing for a little bit, and then we'll go to the chat a little bit later. But if you have any questions or any thoughts on what's happened so far, get in the chat and we'll try to get to some of them a little bit later after we kind of unload our thoughts from the off season. First off, do you want to recap the tournament at all, or do we want to get into Illinois?
I mean, I don't think we need to recap it too much. I mean, the story was UConn. They
Yeah.
steamrolled everybody, including Illinois. Are you talking from an Illinois standpoint or just a tournament as a whole? Or are you just want to talk
Either
about Caitlin,
or.
Caitlin
Just
Clark? What would
Caitlin
you
Clark.
prefer?
Yeah, no kidding. Just kind of all encompassing. Do you feel any different now than you did after the UConn game, after seeing what they did? I mean, is UConn I think
Um,
UConn after last year cemented themselves as a blue blood. Now I think they might be the program of the 2000s, like Dan Hurley said. Like five,
yeah.
6 championships since the year 2000 is incredible. Just kind of all encompassing.
Yeah,
Any thoughts at all?
UConn. Dan Hurley's built an absolute monster. And at UConn, I still wish it wasn't a 30-0 run. I think that's what's still stings. Like I was never expecting to win that game, and like I'm totally fine with losing by double digits. Like that was acceptable. I mean, it's still the 30-0 run is still what's going to be that's going to be the thing that people still bring up about this team. It's not going to be the Elite Eight. It's not going to be whatever. UConn, though, I mean, they're just, they built something pretty special there to lose the talent they did, to bring in new talent, to hang on to some guys. You don't see a lot of freshmen take over at that level recently. And, they had some of that going on. Donovan Clingan, he was somebody that I was impressed with last year. And I didn't watch a ton of Big East basketball this year, but he just wasn't a name that I felt like I heard all that much throughout the season. Zach Edey kind of controlled the big man conversation throughout the course of the season as far as the discourse goes. But Donovan Clingan was phenomenal in the tournament. I mean, he gave Illinois, granted, we can go all day about the strategy for going at Donovan Clingan, but I mean, the Illinois couldn't get past them. Nobody could get past them. I mean, they were, that was the story. UConn Purdue was the matchup everybody was expecting. We actually got the 1-versus-2 matchup that, we don't usually get. And it was, I mean, it ended like I think most people thought it would. So credit to UConn, credit to Dan Hurley. He's built quite a program there. Yeah, as you talked about, they are the program of the 2000s, whatever, however you want to call it. I mean, they're definitely, I mean, I still don't totally understand the meaning of blue blood. But if anybody tries to argue that they're not one, they're wrong. But yeah, they have been the program, and they'll find a way to do it again. I'm not saying they're going to three-peat, but they'll find a way to get themselves back there again.
Yeah. For Illinois, let's just start with I guess this is technically not the most recent news, but it's probably the biggest news so far, is Orlando Antigua is back.
Yes. Correct.
Not necessarily out of nowhere. This was pretty expected after some smoke started to rise, I guess, of things that could be happening. But Orlando Antigua was back with Illinois after 4 seasons at Kentucky, 3 or 4 seasons.
2021.
3 seasons.
3 seasons.
3 seasons. Yeah. he spent 3 seasons at Kentucky after a handful of them at Illinois. So he's bouncing back and forth between the two, but he is back. He is a huge name in college basketball coaching. He is known for his coaching and recruiting of bigs, post players. That includes Anthony Davis, DeMarcus Cousins, Nerlens Noel, Kofi Coburn at Illinois. Even I didn't even think of it, but I was listening to Derek Piper some today. I think he probably gets a lot of credit for Georgie Bashardashvili's development at Illinois.
I'm
I know
sure.
they took a flyer on him as a recruit, and he turned out to be a great college basketball player. So just one of the best assistants in college basketball, choosing to come to Illinois instead of going to Arkansas with Cal. I know this might come off wrong to all of our fan base, but there's not a lot going for it in Champaign, Illinois. Champaign, Illinois doesn't have a lot going for him, but I don't know that Arkansas has much more. Like, if that says anything. So Antigua chooses to come to Illinois and rejoin Brad Underwood instead of going to Arkansas with Cal. Like I said, it wasn't a surprise. So yesterday when it was made official, like, did you even were there even any excitement at all, or because we all
Um,
knew it was coming?
I mean, there was, yeah. I think we knew it was coming. Those that follow this stuff pretty closely and that are on the message boards and have the VIP access to people, like I think it was expected for most people. But I don't necessarily think that I ever knew it was for sure happening until fairly recently. But it was kind of being signaled early on that when Chester was out the door, that they were going after a really big fish, and that Antigua
Yeah,
was always the really big fish. So
yeah,
I know. I mean, I was excited. I really was. You know, it's such a strange thing as a sports fan to get that excited about an assistant coach. I don't think that that's, I don't know, any non-sports fan would probably, like, when they hear you say that, would probably just laugh at you. But especially in the world of college basketball, it means something. I mean, this is a
yeah,
guy who is known around the country as one of the best to do it. Um, he, as you talked about, is an excellent recruiter, has some great ties with certain parts of the country and outside of this country. He's, you alluded to it, he's great with working with post players. I mean, this is the guy you want. And Brad went out and got him. I don't think they've disclosed how much he's getting paid. I
Mhm.
imagine it's more than what he was getting at Kentucky. I thought the Kentucky number was a little under $1 million, and I know
Yeah.
that it was reported that when he left Illinois the first time to go to Kentucky, that the offer from Illinois was $1 million, or at least, and that he turned that down. I would venture to guess that that number is back in that 7-digit figure. Um,
Yeah. Well,
and
and
I mean,
he
it's
gets
worth it.
the associate head coach
Right.
title here now.
Correct.
So I would almost guarantee it's north of that million number, which
Yes.
I'm sure was part of the draw
I'm sure.
because John Calipari made Kenny Payne his associate head coach at Arkansas. So that title he wasn't getting at Arkansas. So Brad probably makes him that promise, and it potentially could have been an easy decision once Brad threw that out there. We don't know that. That's speculation on my part, but yeah, he really helped lay the foundation for what Illinois is now. Of course, he hasn't been on staff for this season specifically in the 2022 regular season title. He was at Kentucky for those, but he was on the 2021 team that was the number one seed that won the Big Ten tournament. So he really laid the foundation from 2017 to 2021. Then he goes to Kentucky for the last couple of years. Um, they win some games, but they don't have the postseason success that Illinois has had the last 3 years.
Right.
So I don't want to say that he regretted going to Kentucky, but you can't deny that Illinois the last 3 years with Antigua there and Chin Coleman also went there. That Illinois has probably had a better success than the Kentucky program. So
Yeah.
with Antigua comes, the first question is, all right, who's he bringing? Like, who's he bringing? I don't think we'll know that for a while.
No.
I really don't. I know, Kentucky had their. I actually bookmarked it yesterday just to see where they all end up. They had I think, number one recruiting class, high school recruiting class, coming in. They had a 5-star Jaden Quaintance, 5-star Boogie Fland, 4-star Carter Knox, 4-star Billy Richmond, 4-star Samto Cyril, and 4-star Travis Perry. Quaintance is a power forward. Fland is a point guard, and Cyril is a center. So those are the guys that Antigua has been tied to. Quaintance has already started taking visits. He's visited Louisville. He's going to visit Memphis. I don't think he would be a possibility. Don't know anything about Cyril. The first name people saw was Boogie Fland because Antigua was the lead recruiter for Boogie Fland. He's not a big, he's a point guard, and Illinois did get a 19-year-old point guard as well. So do you really want to pair an 18-year-old and a 19-year-old in the backcourt like they did 2 years ago? We all saw how that went. So I wouldn't jump to too many conclusions on who Antigua brings from Kentucky because I don't think it's going to be those guys. I think Antigua's, um, what's the word? Antigua's, what Antigua is going to bring is transfer portal, you know, like he's going to pick his guys in the portal and he's going to recruit those guys. He's
Yeah.
not bringing the cow guys with him. And the thing is, I don't think there's many out there right now. I think we've still got a week until the portal window closes. And as far as bigs go, I don't think Antigua has any guys in the portal right now. So who's it going to be? We don't know because this is also new, I think.
So a couple things to go off of what you just talked about. First off, I do not think Boogie Fland is coming.
No.
That makes no sense. They're not going to do that again. Second, you brought up, Antigua just going after guys in the portal, and what the portal is and what Illinois has been very good about doing is bringing in guys you have previous connections to. Mm-hmm. Quincy Guerrier had been recruited by Illinois twice before. They knew him very well. Terrence Shannon was a guy that they knew very well when they brought him in. Who else is on this class? Kylan. These are guys, you have these experience with these players in the past, and that's where the Antigua thing is going to come into play. It's not necessarily the guys that were at Kentucky. It's going to be the guys that he had relationships with that went elsewhere that he's going to be able to have conversations with to bring to Illinois. Those are the players you need to be looking at. Who all those players are, I'm not going to sit here and try to pretend like I know.
No,
that's something. Those are the players you need to be eyeing.
Brett Bielema has vocally, publicly said, in high school recruiting anymore, if someone tells you no, you have to still be their best friend.
Absolutely.
Because 12 months later, those relationships you built in high school or when you were recruiting them previously, those could be beneficial to getting a transfer. So the Brett Bielema publicly, saying, you can't burn bridges in college sports anymore because you never know when these guys are going to become available again. And we saw that exactly with, I believe Illinois recruited Terrence Shannon out of high school. I'm sure they did. So I'm sure that helped them get him as a transfer. Kylan Boswell was down to Arizona and Illinois when he committed out of high school. I'm sure that helped. We know that helped. He said that helped getting him here. So yeah, that's a good point that Illinois is probably going to fill their roster, at least the Antigua's part, on guys that maybe he didn't necessarily get to Kentucky, but he recruited and tried to get to Kentucky that ended up going other places. Now he's in another place. He's like, hey, let's team up now. We couldn't a couple of years ago, but let's team up now and see what we can do. So yeah, that's a good thought. Again, we say it all the time. We're not insiders. We are just kind of speculating here, so we don't have a whole lot of information. I don't know how much else we can add on Antigua other than it's a home run hire. It is. He's probably a top 5 or 10 assistant coach in college basketball, and now you pair him with Tim Alexander, who has proven he's one of the best recruiters in college
Tim Anderson,
basketball. Tim Anderson, what I say?
Jeff Alexander.
Ah, I combine the two. Could you imagine how good of a coach that would be if you combine Jeff Alexander and Tim Anderson? You combine Tim Anderson with Orlando Antigua. Even Jeff Alexander has proven his chops in some recruiting finds lately. So Illinois really has quite an excellent assistant coaching staff right now. Hopefully they can build on that and get some of these players in. Fill the roster because the roster does have some holes still right now. But it's a good sign to draw Orlando Antigua back to Illinois. Anything else with Antigua?
No, it's a big get. It's a big get, and yeah, I'm excited to see what happens here because there are spots to fill, and I think he's going to be a very crucial key into filling those spots, which we will talk about here soon. So I'm excited he's back. And yeah, I'm excited he's back.
The reason he's back is for reasons we may never know, if it was by his choosing or by others choosing. Chester Frazier left Illinois to become the associate head coach at West Virginia under their new head coach, Darren DeVries. That's the smoke that had been out there for a while, that Chester was likely going to leave. He was going to go somewhere else. I feel like I might have saw stuff early, like even in the season still, that this was a potential move that was going to be made once the season was over. So again, not necessarily a secret to those who are on the message boards or in the circles with Illinois basketball. But it was official. I mean, it was announced, or the news broke a week before it was even official, right?
Yes, it was. We were
like
talking about
Twitter.
it. We were talking about it on 2 Fridays ago, and it wasn't actually announced until the following Friday or something. So yeah. It was dark. It was almost a week at least.
Yeah. So not a surprise there. It's again, we're not in the circles, but it seems like it's a good move for both parts. I don't know exactly how much Chester was contributing to this Illinois staff. None of his recruits were panning out, as we'll talk about here in just a couple minutes. There just seemed to be some disconnect from everything that I read and saw. So for him to go get an associate head coaching title, which we just talked about how important that is with Antigua and how much that can bump your pay, how much that can bump your status, because he'll probably be a head coach at some point. After a couple of years at West Virginia, if they're good, he can go to a mid-major, get a head coaching gig, and work his way up. So for him to go get that under DeVries, who has been very successful in the Missouri Valley the last 5 years or 3 or 4 years, whatever it was, it's a good move for him. So I don't think anyone faults him at all. Now, he might be rubbing some people the wrong way, the way he's acting on the social media space, but it's all in good fun. He's still a Illinois alum. So same question as with Antigua. We knew it was coming for so long. Was it one of those things that you were like, all right, just make it official so we can get this thing moving?
Yeah, no, that was kind of it was a week. It was literally a week that we had heard this was a possibility. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to get it moving so we could start the process of filling the hole because we figured they were going to go after a big fish here. I will forever be a big Chester Frazier fan. Chester Frazier was the heart and soul of Illinois basketball in the post D Brown era. That wasn't a particularly good era of basketball. But he was the heart and soul of that team. And that was, when we would have been in high school. Chester's only a few years older than us. And Yeah, I mean that I will always be a fan of his. I'm glad that he got a chance to come back and be on this staff and take part in some great teams here to win some championships in the orange and blue, something he was never able to do as a player. I liked what he brought. Um, just as an outsider, as a fan, I liked what I saw. I liked what he brought. But when it comes down to it, an assistant coach has really two main responsibilities. They are to um, help with the scheming and the coaching, and there to recruit. And the players that he was bringing in to recruit were not the type of players that Brad Underwood was looking to play. And the style of player that Chester Frazier was, and the style that he wanted to play as a coach, was not the style that this team was playing with. Things have just changed. That's ultimately what this comes down to. Things have changed with Illinois basketball. Brad Underwood has leaned heavily into the transfer portal. That's probably not the same type of guy that Chester Frazier wants to go out and get. And the players that Chester Frazier was bringing in were, for the most part, getting recruited over. They just weren't quite the talent that Illinois was thought they could get. So that's what it came down to. So I think it, honestly, I mean, I really do think it's a win-win for both sides. Chester getting that, that promotion, like you mentioned, go into a good program, a Big 12 program. I mean, like, it's not, he's going to the best conference in basketball. I mean, granted,
Yeah.
West Virginia hasn't been close to the top of the conference, but like, I mean, some can say it's a lateral move, and like, sure, like it kind of is, but like, he's going back out east. His connections to the Baltimore, DC area are going to play a lot better out there than they will in Champaign. There's going to be a lot of talent there. I personally loved the Denzel video tweet. I thought it was great. If it's pissing people off, so be it. I have no ill will towards Chester here. Again, like you said, I don't exactly know if he was told to leave or if he wanted to leave on his own or whatever the conversation was. But I really do believe this will work out for both sides.
Yeah, I'm on his Twitter right now, seeing what else he is, if anything else he has said. Yeah, you touched on exactly what I was going to. Was that it's closer to home for him.
Yeah.
It's not Morgantown is not very far from Baltimore because Morgantown is the northeast part of West Virginia. So, um, yeah, I think it's a good move theoretically on paper, and I know people love to analyze trades as soon as they happen. Um, I would think 95% of people, 95% of non-biased people. So if you take out Illinois fans and West Virginia fans, and you show them that Illinois swapped Chester Frazier for Orlando Antigua, I think 95% of college fan bases would say Illinois
Yeah,
won this
it's an
swap.
upgrade.
So
It's an
it's a
upgrade.
massive upgrade for
And
Illinois.
that's not a knock on Chester. It
No.
really is not. When I say that, it's truly not. And I do believe that with the right system in the right place, he can be a very successful coach. And I think West Virginia gives him a great opportunity to do that. But this is without a doubt an upgrade for Illinois.
Yep. Um, any other coaching? Any other thoughts on that?
No, no.
Okay.
I'm sad to see Chester go, just as a fan of his. But upgrade, and
Yeah.
I think it works out for everybody in the end.
So that leads into the departures. We're going to talk departures first and then additions after the departures. As it currently stands, Illinois has 3 returning players from last year's Elite Eight roster. One of those players averaged more than 7 minutes a game. Dre Gibbs Lawhorn averaged 7.1 minutes per game. Ty Rogers averaged 22.7. And there's a total of 10.1 points per game returning from Illinois' Elite Eight team. Piggybacking off of Chester, Sincere Harris, and Amani Hansberry unexpectedly did hit the portal pretty much immediately after the Chester Frazier news was announced.
Did you say unexpectedly?
Expectedly.
I was going to say, maybe you were, maybe you
No.
didn't think it was
As
happening. Okay.
soon as the Chester news was announced, it was very much expected that Sincere and Amani were leaving. Even
So,
before the Chester news, I would have thought Sincere maybe, but Amani
so
I think would have stayed.
when this all started to come out, I was at a concert, one of my what was supposed to be 3 concerts, 3 weekends in a row. But you had texted me about Amani. So that I had seen that before I had seen anything else. And I don't know, maybe the order of operations was different. I don't know, whatever. But
I think it was both were probably leaning towards moving on, and then Chester left and we're like, yeah, it's not even a thought. We're
got it.
done. I think that's probably what happened. But they do enter the portal. Days later, they visit West Virginia. They've committed. They're following Chester to West Virginia. Good fit for both of them. I think West Virginia and DeVries could do a really good job. I think
Yeah.
it's when West Virginia's cooking, they're a good program. They're a top 25 team routinely. So good on them. I don't think, as we mentioned, they were getting over recruited. You know, Amani, his back injury was lingering. Yeah, we loved Amani Hansberry. Like, I don't know that he was going to be a double guy in the Big Ten. Like he gives you the all out effort. He can get you some effort points, some effort rebounds. But I don't think you could consistently count on him to be a every night 15 and 7, 15 and 10 dude. Um, and Sincere, I mean, when you decide to redshirt the day of the first game, like I think that kind of threw up some flags. I mean, there was always the hope that he was going to stick around. You know, that the year off, the year on the practice court, working on the offense was going to be beneficial. I'm sure it was, but with this kind of roster and what Brad's trying to build, he didn't fit. He just plain and simple, he didn't fit what Illinois wants to do. So those two, thanks for a couple good years, but I don't think it's a huge loss for the program.
No, with Amani, I think the writing was on the wall for him when Kerry Booth came to town. I think
Yeah,
that was the
yeah,
indicator of the direction they want to go. And not that I don't think Amani Hansberry couldn't have done some things in Champaign, but I don't think it was going to be at the level that he would have wanted. And I think he can find that elsewhere. Hopefully for him, West Virginia gives him that opportunity. I would have liked to have kept him around in Champaign a little bit, but I'm not surprised. Sincere, definitely not surprised. I don't think that he was ever, and we don't know. We don't really, we weren't privy to watching him practices, and so I don't know if he developed much of an offensive skill set. But it certainly wasn't really there as a freshman. And you can't really have 2 non-scorers in your backcourt if you're only playing about 8 or 9 deep. And when you
bingo.
already have Ty Rodgers, assuming he doesn't leave, it makes it challenging to also carry somebody like a Sincere Harris. I will say this about Sincere Harris, though, and I tweeted this out, and I'll say it here too. Illinois basketball does not make the tournament last year without Sincere Harris.
Yep.
I will take that to my grave. They do not beat UCLA or Texas without Sincere Harris. And without those wins, they do not make the tournament. Plain and simple.
Yeah.
Like that is just the truth of the matter. Without
Yeah.
Sincere Harris, that team does not make the tournament last season. That's it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And I think that, I wasn't privy to being able to watch practices and everything, but I just have to imagine. I'm not going to say that he was as important when he wasn't on the court, but when you have Sincere Harris on your scout team and you have that kind of defensive menace that can pester players like Marcus Damask and Terrence Shannon and Ty Rodgers and whoever else all season long,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not calling him the MVP, but like,
I mean, that's great preparation for Iowa State.
exactly. And
Yeah.
I like, that's I'm happy that he's going to go somewhere where he's probably going to get a better chance to get more minutes because it just wasn't it wasn't going to fit with the style that Illinois wants to play.
Yep.
Especially now, Brad's really taking on the moniker of we're going to be one of the best offensive teams in the country. That's what they were last year. I don't think they care about defense. And I made that comment to my dad last year about, and he I'm sure he'll be listening to this or watching and say that I was crazy. But the plan was, if you ask Brad, he probably won't tell you, but the plan was to try to score 100 and hope the other team can't.
Yeah.
That was the plan. That was the offensive strategy. And Sincere Harris doesn't help you do that. And Amani Hansberry doesn't really help you do that. Ty Rogers doesn't really help you do that, but you got to hope he sticks around. So yeah, I'm happy Sincere Harris was in an Illinois uniform for the year-ish that he was. But I think he can find more success elsewhere. So.
Yep. A couple other departures that we still haven't talked about. Dane Danger was the first. He entered the portal not long after the loss to UConn, and he quickly committed to Memphis. So he's playing for Penny Hardaway, which Memphis just got a Brinks truck given to them in NIL from FedEx. So Memphis is really going to start making some noise in the NIL space, I believe. And then I think the only other one was today. The news of the day: Luke Goody entered the portal. There's already rumors of where he's heading. There were some flags that started to go up when he went through senior day last year. He did graduate from Geese College of Business with a degree. So he is going as a grad transfer, although in today's day and age, that doesn't matter. But another one that's really like, are we really surprised? I don't necessarily think he was being over recruited, but the way that the talk is right now is that he wasn't going to have like a starting role or a 20 minutes a game role. So if he can find it somewhere else, do you really blame him? I know it. He's probably the one that it hurts the most to see go, but
yeah,
I also don't blame him for going.
Yeah, so I'm a geek.
Nerd alert.
Yeah, nerd alert. I have a spreadsheet where I keep track of the scholarships.
I have about 50 of them.
Okay, well, so do I. You should see my Google chart, my Google thing. But on mine, I have the scholarship chart, but I also have like what a depth chart looks like. And I've been looking at this every day.
We could just combine them because I have the exact same thing.
I know. We probably should just have the same one. I love Luke Goody, and I wanted Luke Goody to stay. Luke Goody is the definition of the everyday guy. Luke Goody, he impressed me a lot this season. Defensively, he could be a liability, but he is a fantastic shooter, and he's a really good rebounder. He's 6'7". He's going to give you effort. Like, he's not a guy I wanted to lose. But as I'm sitting here looking at the depth and what they've brought in, what they've kept, what they still need, it didn't make a lot of sense. Now, we'll talk about Jake Davis. He was the very first signee, and right off the bat, people were making the Jake Davis is the Luke Goody replacement. I never thought that was the case, and I still don't think that's the case. I think there's a good chance Jake Davis hardly sees the floor this year.
Yes,
and I mean that sincerely. I think he is a project type of player. He was a 9-point per game scorer at Mercer this past season. That is not the type of player that's going to play 15 plus minutes on a Big Ten title contending team. It's just not. So Jake Davis, in my opinion, and maybe I'm wrong, at least for this year, is not a Luke Goody replacement. Down the road, in a year or two, I could certainly see him playing a similar role to what Luke Goody played, but he is not that type of player right now. However, when you add Jake Davis, Trey White, Kerry Booth, plus Ty Rogers, the minutes for Luke Goody, and you still need more. Like that's the other thing too. Is like this team still has 4 open scholarships. They need to go out and find at least 3 more guys that are actually going to get minutes. So I get it. I understand why Luke Goody would want to leave, because it's not that I think he's getting recruited over. I don't think that's what's happening here, but it's very easy to see why a 4th-year senior in what will likely be his last year of college basketball may want to play more than the 15 minutes he was probably going to get in this rotation. I don't remember what he played this year, probably 17, 20 minutes, something like that. He probably would want to get more than what he got as a junior, and I just don't think that was going to happen at Illinois.
He played 20.1.
And I'm sure he probably wanted to find 22 to 25 in his senior year, and I don't think that was going to happen on this team. As it stands right now, yes, but they're still, as I said, they were still going to add at least 2 more guys even before he left. So, it sucks. And I don't think most Illinois fans wanted to see Luke Goody leave, especially knowing where he will likely end up. I think that will make it sting a little bit more.
Yeah. The schools are Notre Dame, Northwestern, I've seen mentioned, and Indiana. And
I think Indiana is the likely one. I would much rather see him in Notre Dame. I would love to go watch him play here in town.
Yeah.
Stay away from the Big Ten. But yeah, I just looking at the depth and what they already have, what they brought in, and what they still need. I just don't see a path. I just don't see a path for him to get 22, 25 minutes a game. I just don't think it was happening. Will he get that in Indiana? I don't know. They brought in a lot of talent. He's the only guy on the floor that could shoot. So I guess that's his avenue. But I don't think I don't know that he's one of their 5 or 6 most talented players. So I don't know. We'll see how that works. But it made sense. It made sense. It sucks and I hated it, but I kind of saw it coming. Are you reading the tweet, the comment that just came in? I don't think that's true. I've seen a report that says that, but I have not. I don't think that's confirmed.
I saw the Rob Reinhart tweet. I think that's a troll account for all you guys out there. That's not a real account. Real Rob Reinhart. I'm 95% sure that this is not a real person. But Dick Weiss did tweet that he committed to Indiana. Oh, okay. I think he's just going based off of that guy's tweet. So yeah, I don't think there's an actual commitment, but it is leaning that way. There's already a projection for him to go there.
Yeah, I saw that
on 3. So yeah. So that's the people leaving. Moving to the people coming in. The big one is Kylan Boswell, the Champaign-Urbana native. He claims he's from Champaign, but he went to Urbana Middle School. So from Champaign-Urbana, he's the big splash. 27 minutes a game last year at Arizona, 9.6 points per game, 3.6 rebounds per game, 107.8 offensive rating on KenPom. He's a guy that Illinois hasn't had. Well, I guess it's just 1 year. They haven't had a point guard, but he's a true can run the show point guard. He made some incredible passes this year at Arizona. And the thing everyone keeps talking about is he has 2 years of college experience and he just turned 19. So he is very young with 2 years of not just college experience. Like Arizona's been a top 10 team the last 2 years. So he knows how to run an offense at a high level. Everyone talks about his inconsistencies. Let me go to his game log. I believe he was averaging double figures until the last 6 games of the year, because the last 6 games of the year, 5 points, 2 points, 4 points, 20 points in the first round against Long Beach State, but then 2 points against Dayton in the second round and only 3 points against Clemson in the Sweet 16. So 5 of the last 6 games, he failed to score more than 5 points in the game. But prior to that, he had 10, 19, 17. He was scoring. So he ended the year in a pretty big funk. But up to that point, he was a very capable Power 5 high major point guard. Everyone keeps talking about it, and I just keep coming back to the same thing. It's hard to be another guard when Caleb Love is on your team.
Yeah.
Like I really think that's a major factor in his production, at least this year. What were his stats as a freshman? As a freshman, he only played 15 minutes a game, 4.6 points, 1.6 assists, 1.6 rebounds. He shot 39% from three his freshman year, 37.9% last year. So he can shoot the ball. I just think Caleb Love coming in really impacted his consistency and his performance. He's not going to have that kind of player this year unless Illinois gets a commitment from Matthew Meyer or something. Um, so I don't have as much concerns. Once I got that in my head, I was much more at ease because leading up to it, I wasn't fully sold on Kylan Boswell as the guy for this transfer portal class. But once I thought about it, once I looked into the stats and watched some video, like he's going to be, I think he's going to be good. He's going to be great. I think he's going to be a fan favorite. I think people are going to love him. He's a Champaign guy, so I think this means a lot to him to come back. So yeah, I'm all in on Kylan Boswell leading Illinois at the point.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just depends on what your expectations are for this team. It is April 22nd at the time of recording, and I still have no idea what this team's really going to look like.
Yes.
When the season actually starts in November or whatever. I mean, yeah, we have an idea, but there are still at this moment 4 open scholarships, which they could all fill. You have 3 more returning players that could hypothetically still transfer. You have 2 returning guys that hypothetically could still come back, though I think both of those are unlikely. I still don't know what this team looks like. So I'm not going to sit here and be too positive or too negative about any one particular move.
Yep.
I think Kylan Boswell is a great addition because this team, the Marcus Damask booty ball thing worked last year. You got lucky. You got real lucky that you found Marcus Damask and that he was able to do the things he was able to do. I don't see that happening every season. I don't see Trey White being the next Marcus Damask. So you went out and got a true, legitimate Power 5 point guard who right off the bat becomes one of the best 5 or 6 point guards in the Big Ten. Plain and simple. If you're counting on Kylan Boswell to be your guy, no. This team's not contending for the Big Ten title if Kylan Boswell is the guy. He can certainly be a wingman, be a point guard if there's a real scorer on the team. The whole Kylan Boswell Caleb Love experiment / experience, I think was destined to fail from the beginning. That never made sense to me. I'm not sure why. I don't know. There's a lot of things about that just I didn't get. I like the addition, but there's still moves to make. So,
yep.
I'm not going to get too super excited about it. It is exciting. I like that he's coming back to Champaign. To be a nice homecoming of sorts. And I do think he, given the right situation, can be a true, Big Ten point guard. I think he certainly can be that. And as you talked about, people talk about the whole age thing, which it is unique that he is a 19-year-old kid, just turned 19, and he's already has 2 years of experience.
Yeah.
Is that a positive?
Yeah. I don't know.
And I don't know. Like, that's the part that, we're also still on the back end of this whole COVID year thing. So this Illinois team this past season was full of like 23-year-olds.
Yeah.
And that's not what this team is. And we can talk about the general makeup towards the end or whatever. But I don't know. Like, everybody's talking about this like it's a good thing that he's only 19 years old and has 2 years of experience. He's still 19 years old. Like, what is that? I mean, it's not like you have him for 10 years. You only get him for 2 more.
Yep.
So, I mean, by the time he graduates, he's going to be 21. So that's a good thing. Would you rather have? I don't know. I'm just asking. Like, that's what I don't
I
find
see both
interesting.
sides. I see both sides. Another
Whatever.
addition is Trey White from Louisville via USC. So spent his freshman year at USC, most recent year at Louisville. Watched him quite a bit. I didn't watch as much Louisville this year as I did last year. As crazy as that sounds, because this year was better than last year. But there's potential there. My initial thought when I saw it was, why are we taking someone from Louisville? They were like the worst power high major team in college basketball this year. But the potential is there. He's a double digit scorer both seasons, 5.9 rebounds last year. Did not shoot the three well this year, 29.9%. But he didn't have any help. So I think with Trey White, that's what I keep coming back to, is that you put pieces around him. Defenses won't be able to focus on him as much. It'll open things up for him. He can be a little more free flowing. I'm not comparing him to. I don't even want to make the comparison. I'll just say he's very athletic. He can get to the rim. He can be a high flyer. He can also shoot it. So I think he can be a good piece. Um, the puzzle piece right now that Illinois is really needing is that Terrence Shannon role. The alpha, the go to. If Trey White ends up being that, then Illinois is going to be in trouble. He's not that. So if he ends up having to be that, then something went wrong this offseason, because I think he can have the ball in his hands. He can make good decisions, but Illinois is going to need more. If they need to rely on Trey White to be a 15-point a game scorer, then things are not going to go well. But it's a good addition. Initially, I even tweeted it that I was very skeptical about it, but this is a good piece as long as Illinois keeps building on this, and this isn't the piece.
I don't know a lot about him. Did he play the game I was at? I wasn't. I couldn't remember.
Yeah, I actually looked that
Um.
up. He did not score.
Okay, great.
Louisville scored 100
Um.
points, and he did not score.
So that's promising. I again, like the Kylan thing, I'm not going to sit here and be super strong one way or the other, but I will say this about the Trey White edition. It was very stealthy. It came out of nowhere.
Very, very, yes.
There were no reports of this happening. All of a sudden, it was just he was committed to Illinois. I have no problem with bringing in a player like Trey White to this team. My only concern is, does that end up taking a scholarship away from somebody else you'd rather have? Like, that's where I'm at, and I don't know who that player is. We can compare it to
open scholarships.
Just talk about Luke Goody, for example. I'm not saying that I would rather have one or the other. They're two different players, whatever. But maybe not taking a scholarship is maybe that's not the right phrasing. But does he? I don't know. In my mind, I thought, okay, I'm fine with this, but there has to be more. And if this keeps you from making another move down the road, that's what worries me. I'm sure that won't happen. I'm sure they've thought this whole thing out. There are people that are getting paid a lot more money than me to think this stuff over and to know what they're doing. I just, in my mind, I'm not sure that was what I was going for. I mean, is he? He's not a. Is he a 4? Are we just calling him a wing?
Yeah, I think he's 3. I think he's 3/4.
So I'm looking at it from like a roster makeup type of thing. At this point, you're looking at Kylan Boswell as your point guard. Trey White is your 3. And then you still have to find some sort of alpha wing.
The starting 5 I've got right now is Boswell, Rogers, White, Booth, and Johnson.
Right now. Correct.
Right now, yeah.
But I don't know. I still have questions about how he fits. I'm not against it, but that's the biggest one to me that is still somewhat of a head scratcher. I'm not totally sure the role he plays. But we'll see.
The other one that will probably make a big impact is Kerry Booth, the transfer from Logan's neck of the woods from South Bend to Champaign. He is a four, stretch four, step out, shoot the three quite a bit. Did not shoot it great his freshman season, 29.7%. Only scored 6.4 points a game in 19.9 minutes. So he played 20 minutes a game. He's 6'10", big dude, very Coleman Hawkins esque, I believe. Probably without the entire skill set that Coleman has. Coleman is much more, all around than Kerry Booth, but stretch four that they can play some. They can draw some defenses out of the paint with him. He's the son of, I believe, the Nuggets or Jazz. Which one is it? Nuggets?
The Nuggets.
Nuggets general manager Calvin Booth. Any NBA fans probably remember Calvin Booth from early 2000s, probably.
It definitely had his basketball card.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, he was kind of a journeyman, I think. I think he played for a lot of teams. I could be wrong. I'm not a huge NBA guy, but I definitely know the name. So that's a pretty good get. I think Boswell, White, and Booth. At one point, Illinois had the number one transfer class in the country. I think they're still probably top 10. I think these are three good pieces. I think the roster is coming together, but there's still a bunch of needs. But Booth specifically, I think he's got 3 years left. He's only played 1 year, so he's got 3 years left. He's very raw. He needs to get in with Fletch. He's pretty skinny, pretty frail. Not frail. That's a bad word. Pretty skinny. Needs to bulk up a little bit. But the shot's there. The talent is there. And he fits more what Illinois wants to do than Amani. So if you're looking like as a replacement here, this is basically the replacement for Amani, and he can do more what Illinois wants to do.
Correct. He right now you're looking at a front court of a 6'9" freshman Morez Johnson.
Yeah.
A 6'10" stretch four in a wiry Kerry Booth, and a project in Jason Jaxtis, and whatever position Trey White plays / whatever position Ty Rogers is. That's your front court. So, like, to me, like, I know they're still going to go out and they're going to get somebody, but, like, this is a very different strategy. This whole portal thing is just strange. It's been, you don't know what you're going to get. Last year, they thought there was a chance they were going to get Terrence Shannon and or Coleman Hawkins back. So they thought, let's get old and stay old. So they brought in fifth-year transfer Marcus Damask. They brought in fifth-year transfer Justin Harmon. They brought in fifth-year transfer Quincy Guerrier. They're old. They're the oldest, one of the oldest teams in college basketball. This year, they're bringing in a lot of guys who only have a year or two under their belt. And you're looking at a team that has currently no seniors on it. I don't know the ages of all these players. I don't have that information written down. But you have Ty Rogers, Trey White, and Kylan Boswell all have 3 years of college basketball experience. You have 4 players that have 2, and then you have 2 players that have not touched the floor in college basketball. Yeah. So I think it's just very different. I like the Kerry Booth addition. I do think he fits well with what Morez Johnson is. But I'm not sold that he is. I'm not saying he's not going to be an important piece. I'm not saying that he's not going to be an important part of the rotation, but he is certainly not the post player answer that you need. If the plan is to contend in the Big Ten, which I don't know why it wouldn't be, he ain't that right now. He's not.
Okay, so yeah, I mean those are kind of the main ones. Jake Davis committed. I don't want to spend too much time on Jake Davis because we've already been talking for an hour here. He's a wing, 6'6", from Indiana originally, played at Mercer last year. He's a shooter. He's 38%, 38.7% from 3 last year. So I just don't know how much he's going to contribute, but he is another
Yeah.
piece for this team. I think he will play, but I don't think you can count on him for. He's not going to be a Luke Goody role, I don't think. So, but he also committed. So 4 transfers in to go along with 3 holdover players and 2 high school players. Illinois has 9 players currently, which means they have 4 spots left. As long as none of the 3 others transfer out, Rogers, Gibbs, Lawhorn, and Moretti, as long as they all stay, 4 transfer in left. I'll give you mine, and then you can follow. But I think there's 1 guard, 1 not superstar, like hopefully superstar, but 1 alpha wing, and 2 post players in those 4. Do you agree, or would you go a different route?
With those 4 spots?
Those 4 spots, I think there's 1 guard, 1 scoring wing, and 2 post players.
There's definitely a scoring wing, and there's definitely a post player. And I think probably 2 post players. I wouldn't be shocked if they leave the 13th spot open. That tends to be what they've done.
Yeah, you're right.
And who knows how long the appeal process will take with the waiver from Marcus Damask. So
that is,
I don't
we
think
haven't touched on that.
I'm not trying to wish that into existence. I don't think that's likely, and I don't think anybody thinks that's likely. But
no.
I also don't think you want to fill your 4 spots and then learn 2 months from now that you can get Damask back, and then you have to tell somebody to kick rocks. So
yeah,
I don't know. For sure, they're going to try to go out and get an alpha wing. For sure, they're going to go out and get a true post player that can start on day 1. And then what that third one is, I don't know. It probably a post player that makes more sense. But I don't know. Again, it really just depends on what you're trying to do, who you're trying to piss, who you're okay with pissing off, who do you think. I don't know. I would hate to go out and do something that's gonna, it's already a track record of guys don't stick around here. So I don't know how long you want to keep that going. But yes, for sure, an alpha wing and a true post player that can play on day 1 for sure, 100%. Those 2 things are definitely happening. What they do with the 3rd and 4th spots, TBD, in my opinion.
So, speaking of spreadsheets,
yeah,
I have my transfer spreadsheet.
Yes, you do.
It is pinned on my Twitter. If you go to my Twitter, it is pinned. Anytime I see a report that Illinois has been in contact with someone, I throw it on there. I stole it from a guy down here in Louisville. And comparing the 2, I still look at his. Louisville has contacted like 50 players. Illinois has, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 12, about 18 to 20 on Illinois. As far as guards go, Marcus Hill from Bowling Green, Duke Miles from High Point, Jordan Pope from Oregon State, and John L. Davis from Florida Atlantic are the 4 that I have seen Illinois at least show interest in. Davis is not happening. I don't think Pope is happening. He's been on visits to Texas and Texas A&M. Marcus Hill could happen if Illinois wants it, but doesn't sound like they've pushed too hard, and I don't know anything about Duke Miles. Where it gets tricky is I don't see many wings that they're involved in. And we just talked about how important it is to get that wing.
Correct.
I know there's talk on the boards, and we're not here to give out the free content that the boards want you to pay for. But, I mean, the portal is open for another 9 days. So there could be additions. Yes. There's a huge name out there right now that people assume is going in, but he's not. So I don't know that we want to talk about it. I mean, we can if you want, but...
No, I don't think we need to talk about things that are behind paywalls. There are 2 parts to this too. And I don't even know what the timeline is, but the draft plays a part in this too.
Yes,
is because players have up to a certain point before they have to pull their name from the draft, and then those players can enter the transfer portal. Or I don't remember how it all works, but like there's still a lot to be determined here. We are not done. So Illinois will find their guy. I don't know that they're going to find a Terrence Shannon like what you had out of Terrence Shannon last year. but I have a hard time believing they won't find a guy to do that. There's a lot of guys that are still probably going to enter the portal, and there are guys entering the portal now as we speak. So they will find somebody.
Is that a
But yes,
tease?
huh?
Is that a tease? Did someone just enter a portal?
No, I mean
Oh,
I see them all the time. I have tipped in on notifications, so it's
mm,
like every 10 minutes I get a new one. So,
gotcha.
um, no, I mean they'll find somebody. Who
Yeah.
knows?
The
Legitimately,
big
who knows
name,
who it's going to be?
the big name right now is Kobe Brea from Dayton. Statistically, the best shooter in the country last year. He shot 200 threes and he made more than 50% of them. But he released his top five today, and it is legitimately the best top five that anyone has ever released. It's
Why not?
UNC, Kansas, Duke, Kentucky, and
UConn.
UConn.
Yeah,
It is the five best programs in college basketball. So
yeah.
um, there is a connection there. I believe Antigua. I'm going to give Derek Piper credit here, but I heard Piper say that Antigua played with Brea's dad. They're both
Yep.
Dominican from the Dominican Republic, so there's a connection there. Could Illinois potentially get in there? It's possible, but when you're up against those five, I know Illinois has had a good run. You're not going to beat those five, so looking very unlikely there. As for Post, um, I hated when I saw his name initially, but this kid from Evansville, Ben Rickhouse, the scouting breakdown I watched of him the other night, that dude can get buckets. How did he play
Yeah.
3 years at NAIA? Like 3 years at NAIA and then to Evansville? Like, how is this dude not already at a high major?
Yeah. He can score, man. He can score. And I like the idea of it. The thing that concerns me though is
Size.
again, as you alluded to, he's still not that's not the big post presence you need.
No.
I mean
That's why I think they're
if
gonna
they
go
get
shoot.
him, that means they still need another post player. Like
That's
a
what I'm gonna say.
true
Yeah. If they get
five.
Rickhouse, they have to get just a menace in the paint because the five or the four bigs you had on the roster cannot guard. They couldn't guard Coleman Hawkins in the post. Like the dudes just
Yeah.
are so slim. So if you go and you get Rickhouse, who is going to be on a visit this week, you got to go get another big. Someone actually, I know we haven't been in the chat, and we probably won't have time to get to it because we've been on here for a long time. Someone asked me who are the best bigs, best 10 bigs in the portal. Best I can do is go to 24/7 and give you a list. 24/7's bigs. They got Great Usabor, who's visiting Kentucky, likely going to go there. Cliff Amori from Rutgers. He's got some visits lined up. I just saw Alabama's on his list. Illinois is not involved there. Brandon Garrison. Illinois did have a Zoom with him from Oklahoma State, but I haven't heard anything since. I think he's scheduled visits to like other Southern schools, so I don't think they're in on that. Vlad Golden, he's probably going to Michigan with Dusty May. Felix Okpara is a potential name from Ohio State. He just entered the portal yesterday, but after that, I mean, Pharrell Payne from Minnesota's in here. Illinois has contacted him. Don't think that's developed anywhere. It just kind of gets really thin after that. Musa Sisse, I don't know. He started at Oklahoma State, then he went to Ole Miss. He just entered the portal yesterday. He's a big dude. Could see that one happening or at least trying. I just feel like it's a little slim pickings as far as bigs go right now. So you got to hope Antigua has his eyes on some people and he can bring them in.
They'll find somebody.
Yeah.
They'll find somebody. They'll find a
Yeah.
post. They'll find a wing. I think it's very, very incredibly likely that Illinois' best player is not even in the transfer portal today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely not on the team right now. If
Yep.
Illinois' best player next season is on the team right now, the team is not winning much of anything, unless
Yeah.
Kylan Boswell just has an absolute coming out party.
Yeah. I think you're right.
But yeah,
I think you're
they'll
right.
find their guys. I'm not concerned about it. It is April 22nd. There's still many more days left of
What I
portaling and all that stuff.
what I don't want to happen is what happened last year. Although it turned out okay.
which
I
is what?
don't want Illinois to wait on their guy and their guy picks someone
Yes,
else.
correct. That was not an enjoyable experience. Remember that whole thing with what's his face? That other point guard they thought they had signed, that they did sign, and then they told him to scram because he was caught up in a gambling ring. And
Oh yeah, he turned out to be pretty good.
yeah, well, you know.
Let's see. Ray J. Dennis committed to Baylor on June 1st last year. So for a timeline aspect, June 1st is when Ray J committed to Baylor, which I feel like that's late in the cycle. Like you have to be in the portal May 1st. Uh, so there's 9 days left to do that. You don't have to be committed anywhere, but you have to be in the portal by May 1st. So we'll at least know who's available by then, but then you got to go get those guys. So that's my concern is I hope they learn from last year not to wait on someone and then that someone choose a different someone. Do you have anything else, the Logan Lee?
No, I mean, I think we covered all the important things here. I mean, I know we're kind of already long. I thought maybe we could get to a couple of things in the chat, but yeah, I mean, I think we've kind of covered.
I haven't been keeping up with it, if I'm being completely honest.
It's okay. There's been some comments.
We can answer this one. Jeff, got to ask the question, is Brad kind of marked as hard to play for? I feel like everyone asks that. Seems he has a problem keeping players over the years with NIL. He doesn't show loyalty to guys. We need a guy that can dominate low. I don't know what that means. Yeah, I mean, that is his reputation, that he is not going to be easy on you, but I don't think it's scaring people away. You just got to find the right people.
Yeah, I don't. I do. I get it. I get the whole Brad is tough to play for thing, and I'm sure there's probably some truth to that. We saw, the different ways he tried to get to the team last year. Some of them were public, some of them were not. It is well documented at this point that Illinois has struggled to keep guys. You can list off about 20 of them that have transferred out in the last 3 or so years. I will say this, though. Not very many of those 20 do I feel like I would have. Do I feel like at the end of the day would have helped much? Like comparing, like if we were just talking about last year, because last year's team was an Elite Eight basketball team full of 23-year-old players who, from the last however many guys that have left, would have truly helped that team last year to the point where they would still be here this coming season.
Are you asking me? Because I'm reading the comments.
The answer, who? Jaden Epps? Where's he going to play?
Guys that transferred that we miss?
Yeah.
Is that what you're asking? Yeah, I think Epps is the only one. I mean, Podziemski would have been nice, but that's Brandon a completely different situation.
Brandon Podziemski would have never developed at Illinois. Never.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have developed anywhere other than a mid-major school. Like, if people still want to go on that train, like, we need to move past that because that. But yes, that's what I'm getting at. Is like, yes, it's difficult to like watch all these guys leave, but like, it's not like RJ Melendez is tearing up the SEC.
Yeah.
It's not like Sky Clark has
had a rough year here.
I just. And maybe one of them will prove me wrong at some point, but like to this point, it just hasn't really happened yet. So I'm fine with the direction they've gone.
So what do you think about this? Do you want them to leave spots open for Damask and Coleman? Like if it gets to May 25th and you haven't heard on a Coleman or Damask decision, like I feel like that's only leading to bad things.
Yeah, I don't want them to leave multiple spots open. I don't think both of them come back. I think that's very unlikely, extremely unlikely that both of them come back. I think it's a little more likely that you get maybe one of them back. So that's why I could certainly see them keeping one open. But they do that typically do that anyway. So like that wouldn't be abnormal for them. But there are several guys on the team that I would tell to go away if you get one of them back. So The thing with Coleman, and let's address the Coleman thing. If Coleman Hawkins comes back, which Coleman Hawkins wants to go to the NBA. That's what he wants to do. He's already been vocal about this. His time at Illinois, he says, is done. If Coleman Hawkins comes back, I don't think Coleman Hawkins wants to play the 5. I just don't think he does.
Yeah.
So, and there's still nobody on the roster other than a 6'9" freshman in Morez Johnson that is anything close to a 5. So, yeah, if that's gonna happen, there are other things you have to do. Like, I don't know. The Damask thing, Marcus Damask can fit in anywhere. You can that can work regardless. But the Coleman thing, if Coleman does come back, which I would like for him to, I am Team Coleman. You have to make other moves in order to make that happen. So
hold on, I'm checking one thing real quick.
Check away. I saw there was one comment at one point, something about
if you have one in mind.
Well, there was somebody that asked about it wasn't Antigua who brought in Coleman. And I believe
I think that was early. Yeah.
It was. I believe Coleman was a Chin Coleman recruit, according to 24/7. Not that Antigua didn't have a say in it or influence, but I do, according to 24/7, he was recruited by Chin Coleman. So.
Yeah.
There was. I mean, they're great comments, but there wasn't a ton that we need to go over.
We are our boys in here.
Oh, what's up, Mark?
Be down in Louisville for PGA, playing in Barstool outing that Monday, then Valhalla practice around Tuesday. I heard there is a casino down there. There is a casino down there that Logan did not go to, that I went to, and Logan made it back to South Bend before I left the casino.
Yeah. That was a fun night.
Yeah, I didn't know Barstool had one down here. I'll have to look that up. I'm definitely not playing in that, but I didn't know they were having the tournament down here. I will be at the PGA as well. I don't know what days, but I will be there. So hit me up. Hit me up if you're coming down. Should be a good time. Probably watch Scotty Scheffler win another major because he is unstoppable right now. Anything else Illinois basketball related, Logan, or the chat?
Do you want to talk about the running Dane out was a mistake?
It's only a mistake. I'm going to hold judgment to see who Illinois gets.
My opinion, I don't think they ran Dane out.
No, I think after the way he played, I think they wanted him back.
Dane, in the middle of the season, didn't play because Dane wasn't playing well. Yeah. Like, we've said that before. Like, Dane was not playing well enough to keep him on the floor. This was a team that wanted to try and score 100 points. There were some defensive questions when you had him. There were offensive questions when you had him and Ty Rodgers on the floor. It just didn't necessarily work. I still don't think they chased Dane out. And by the way he was playing at the end of the season, I certainly don't think they wanted him to leave. So, I mean, I know there's a lot of people that have that opinion that, like, they should have played Dane more and, like, he would have stayed. And, like, I just can't fully get behind that because he wasn't playing well enough to play. He was turning the ball over every time he touched it.
Yeah.
Like, that's just what it was. That was how Dane was playing halfway through the season. Now he turned it around and he was fantastic in the tournament. I don't think Illinois would have wanted to lose him because, yes, there are not a lot of great 5 men here as options. But this team wanted to play a certain way last year because you had the guys that you had, and Dane didn't really fit it. I don't know what the team's going to look like this year. That's the nice thing. That's what Brad Underwood has been really good at, has been adapting to the team that he has. Mm-hmm. He came in as a guy known for his up-tempo and all these things, but he was gifted Kofi Coburn on a platter. So what do? You build your offense around Kofi Coburn. Then you lose Kofi, you bring in Terrence Shannon Jr. and Matthew Meyer, and you shift again. Like, last season really didn't work, but I don't think that was necessarily all his fault. It just, the group that he brought in didn't really work, and he tried to trust freshmen. So trust the process, Wally. Trust the process. Let's get out of here, Craig.
Yeah, this has been a long show, but there was a lot to talk about. So Thanks for tuning in. We did have a lot of people in here. So thanks for watching. If you're still here, like and subscribe. And if you really want to, hit that little notification bell so you know when we do go live, because we won't have a set schedule going forward. We're just going to kind of go with the flow. As things happen, we will come on here and break them down. I know a lot of this wasn't exactly timely. It's weeks old news, but we hadn't talked about it. So this was our chance to break it all down. Hopefully we get some good news soon. I don't know what that will be, because I think it's going to be pretty stagnant for a while. Humrick House is going to be on a visit, but I don't know of any other visits happening. So could be a little stale for a little bit, but next time we get a flurry of news, we'll hop on and kind of break it down for y'all. So anything else, Mr. Logan Lee?
Good night, America.
Good night, America. Good night, Illinois. Good night, Kentucky. Good night, Indiana. Good night, everyone. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time, but don't know when that'll be.